Good morning, Soulbridge Tribe. This is Julie from Soulbridge Holistics, and today I want to talk about some red flags when you're communicating regarding spirituality and religion and beliefs in general, because that is a whole pie of confusion, and people get irritated and very emotional and want to take sides and start a war. And I believe that the original intent of religion was to create peace and create unity, but of course then you have multiple religions and people don't know how to share, and so it becomes a little bit lopsided, and people tend to say mine's better than yours instead of I have a piece of a pizza, this is my slice, that's your slice, we can all get along, which is kind of what spirituality does. And so I have told you, and our videos now are in the 40s, so if you have not seen them, if you're new to this channel, please go back to the first 20 videos, because I'm in advanced material right now. I'm not pushing people to do my beliefs. I'm not pushing anyone to ascribe to anything. I am trying to resonate with my Soulbridge tribe. And if that's you, you'll recognize the words that I'm using and the way that I state things, and you'll understand the higher purpose for unity consciousness and for ascension of our earth. So I consulted ChatGPT. Very interesting, because Chat is programmed by people with limited belief systems, and it ascribes to collect information online and bring it back to me. When you're looking at what people believe and what societies believe and what cultures believe, stepping out of the boundaries even for a minute, even to talk about ETs, can be kind of risky, because people have to widen their scope of understanding. And ChatGPT rightly said, if you're going to be a doctor, be trained by doctors. And if you're going to be a channeler, interact with other channelers, because a doctor doesn't know what a channeler does any more than a channeler knows what a doctor does. And even though you can talk to doctors and be in a hospital, that doesn't make you a doctor. I've had a lot of people making positive comments, thank you so much, and then a couple of people who seem offended by content as if they own the word Jesus, or if that somehow is a trigger word for them, or some sort of a label for something they consider to be a religion that they belong to, and it's some sort of closed group, as if Jesus doesn't talk to everybody else. So when I'm quoting Jesus, I'm doing it directly. I'm quoting and using the kinds of phrases that Jesus himself would have used. For example, when he says, none gets to heaven except through me, and you enter with the heart of a child, basically he's talking about being meek, being innocent, being truthful, standing up for your truth, speaking what is righteous. And I don't mean quoting scripture, that's not what I mean. In fact, I put my daughter in church summer camp, and in order to get the discount, she had to memorize 50 Bible verses, and she did. But it sounded like gobbledygook, like nobody speaks like that, and nobody understands what that means. And no, I'm not going to sit in a group and discuss it for 2 hours to see what one sentence means, because when something's obvious, it's obvious. And yet we have what is called the reality police. I love that ChatGPT brought this up. Reality police says, oh, in my reality, that can't happen. There have to be police for policing your beliefs. You're out of bounds with our belief system, and therefore you are wrong. Okay, so I'm destabilizing a framework, but I have a doctorate, and I was taught about societal reform. And part of that is breaking down systems that are old and archaic and aren't functioning well. I literally had a Muslim friend of mine call me and say, I don't believe the stuff my religion's teaching me anymore. What should I do? And I said, well, let's discuss which parts to keep, okay? There are angels. There is hell. There is heaven. There is God. God is love. God loves everybody. God will let you in. God's gatekeeper is Jesus. Everybody from every religion meets Jesus because he is there, and he is going to be all present. And he's extremely loving, very understanding, takes your hand like you're a child, walks with you. This is not Christianity that I am quoting. This is what happens on the other side. This is what near-death experiencers said. And yet I am getting comments from people who've never had near-death experiences, have never seen the other side. All they're doing is rehashing stuff that's in a book and saying, well, this is scripture. And so my friend had the same problem. He goes, there's the stuff that's written and then there's reality. And I said, your gut's going to tell you what's right. And you know there's angels. And you know there's God. And you know there's Jesus. And of course, they're prophets. And those prophets work with people who have belief systems that are regional. And these prophets are very old. And they brought in some information that was relevant to their culture at the time. Okay, like trying to pass a camel through the eye of a needle. That's a great saying, isn't it? Only nobody here that I can see has camels. And so they have their place in time and in history. But sometimes we have to update that reality so that we are looking at current time. Beings on the other side, people have passed away, are very cognizant of what's going on right now. Abraham Lincoln would be able to see the technology and the computers and the trains from his side. And so if you bring him through, he will talk about not only life during his time period, but how life is now, and he can compare, presidents back then, presidents right now. How is Trump doing? How does he feel about Trump's efforts? They're very cognizant and very aware of what goes on this side. But you can't speak to something that you haven't seen. So if you're not a near-death experiencer and you didn't cross over, or you're not channeling and speaking with these spirits, if that's not your forte, then doctors need to teach doctors and carpenters need to teach carpenters. It's just a matter of, I'm not destroying anything. I'm not destroying someone's belief system. I'm asking you to stretch to see other people's perspectives, because you're not a near-death experiencer, but someone else is. And maybe you don't need an authorized intermediary to speak to God correctly, or talk to Jesus correctly, or channel a spirit guide who will tell you how they lived, what their views were. It's not incorrect to ask somebody, can you look out the window and tell me if it's cloudy? And they come back and they say, it's cloudy. And you go, no, it's not. I go, well, the person who just looked out the window says it's cloudy. Nope, it is written that it's sunny every day. Like, that doesn't make sense. Sorry. Because now you're out of sync with reality. And I'm very much in sync with reality. Got both feet there. Belief borders. Belief borders is a term that Chat used to describe when you get to that edge of comfort. Remember I said if ETs were going to come, if you were going to meet them, you'd probably get a creepy feeling because their vibration's so much different, and their craft are magnetic and have a lot of radiation on their hulls. And so when you get in proximity to these beings who can withstand that radiation and have a different kind of body vibration, a unique energy signature, that might make the hair on your arm stand up. You might feel uncomfortable. It is bordering on a belief issue, right? And your belief border is, this doesn't feel right. I'm going to have a fight or flight reaction. I'm going to end up running away. And you have to control your breathing and your heartbeat and slow down and go, I'm not in danger. It's okay. And you have to basically come to terms with a belief border. So institutional religions rest on a few structural pillars. One of them is authorized intermediaries. Well, Native Americans believe that you should feel God for yourself. It is your experience. It is your communication. It's your communication with all that is. It's your communication with Creator. Nobody should have to stand between you and Creator. And you are authorized to speak on your own behalf. You do not need Pastor Fred to talk to God for you. That's not going to happen. Controlled access to the divine. You do not need to be wearing a robe. You don't have to have special credentials to speak to angels, to speak to spirit guides, to communicate with God, to meditate, to seek your higher power, to be in contact with all that is, to channel energy, to channel a spirit guide. You don't need controlled access to the divine. That's a very important point. Doctrinal enforcement. So that's where the reality police come in and they go, oh, you've invaded my space. You are saying something that I was taught is not accurate. Like, okay, but have you talked to people who actually had that experience? Because when a near-death experiencer who's Jewish or Muslim tells me that they had a death experience, they were dead for like 15 minutes, and all the time they were being resuscitated, their spirits on the other side, roaming around, meeting Jesus, touring the other side, seeing all their relatives, And they're like, I'm surprised I'm a Muslim and it's Jesus that I met. And okay, well, surprise, it's a little different than what he was taught. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think he found out that everybody was treated with love and respect on the other side, and everybody was cherished equally. So your title, your paperwork, your college degree, your robe, your labels, your age, your gender, your race aren't going to amount to much on the other side. You're going to get scanned immediately to see if you have a clean heart, and that is how they weigh you. Do you have a clean heart? Did you come in with a lot of hate? Are you spewing negativity all the time? Are you obstructing God's plan and trying to shut people down? You're going to be on your way to hell, however righteous you think you are, because that self-righteousness is just not a meek person, meek and humble. Clear in groups and out groups. On the other side, you'd be surprised to see that the in groups and out groups are going to be a matter of how luminous you are. They will literally read your light quotient and go, this person's very dark, they can't come in. This person's very brilliant, they can come in. They actually had a person who crossed over and advanced himself on the other side, and they said, you can be a spirit guide, or this person qualifies to work with angels. How about that? To me, that's my goal. I want to be luminous, clear. I want to be clean. I want to be spiritual. I don't want to be hateful. I'm not going to spew doctrine. I'm not going to sit there with the in groups and the out groups. I'm not going to do it. People encountering Jesus outside of Christianity. Okay, so maybe that's a problem for you, but it's a reality, okay? And that's not religion talking. It is what people saw and what they reported back. And if John says it's cloudy outside and looks out the window, then I'm going to trust John. Unless, of course, there's some sort of a problem with John's ethics and he has a record of lying, in which case I might go look out the window or I'll send a second person. But if tens of thousands of people who had near-death experiences all report the same thing and come back, I don't think you need 10,000 people to look out the window to tell you it's cloudy. All right, some more notes that I have written down. Am I arguing theology? I'm not arguing anything. I'm just telling you to believe the reporters, the people who came back and brought this information. If you don't want to listen to me, then Google near-death experiencers and look at them directly, what they say, because it's very powerful. Bypassing the gate. Am I bypassing a gate? I'm bypassing men telling me what to do, people wearing robes who tell me I can't come in unless I do it that way. I have to eat the cookie, I have to drink the wine, I have to do their rituals. No, I don't. I have solid rituals that I practice, and spiritual people will practice these things. Being clear-minded, being able to see and visualize, use all your senses, your sixth senses also. And that means being open to the vibrations around me, getting downloads from spirit guides, being able to visualize Jesus and feel Jesus with me, feeling the presence of my two angels here. I have Hehawia and Lehahia right here with me. And I'm not going to argue about their pronunciation either, because it's like tomato or aluminium versus aluminum, and I don't care, because that's my angels and my contact with them. I'm not doing enforcement with you. I told you my version of the Tibetan chant, and if you want to pronounce it however you do, I've seen people doing Muslim prayers in Arabic. The Arabic is really bad. They have very heavy accents. I don't think anybody cares. Really? They made an effort. They have an accent. Okay, get over it. If a reaction isn't curiosity, but it's enforcement instead, what do I do? So I've asked you to politely leave positive comments about your experiences, about what's relative to our topics. I'm not going to go onto your website and bash you. I would like you to not come onto my website and bash me. I don't need people to be doing reality enforcement or being reality police on my channel. If you disagree, then move on. If it resonates with you, then please join the Soulbridge tribe and become one of the light warriors, light keepers, light emissaries, the luminous people who are upholding the vibration to ascend this earth into a higher status. The irony and where my humor is earned, because I just keep it in my back pocket, I'm actually doing something very old. I'm actually practicing a philosophy that was First Nations philosophy. Pretty much all the First Nations in any continent you can name are doing the same things that I'm doing right now. The experience comes first and the structure comes later. That's what I was taught when I worked with Lama Pima doing Reiki. The experience comes first, the structure comes later. So he would say, put your hands on this, what do you feel? And then everyone would say what they'd feel, like, how do you interpret that? And then they would show their versions and I would say, oh, okay, I feel the color, I can see the heat, I can feel the textures. Okay, so maybe I'm hearing the word blue or I'm seeing BLUE and I have to match that up on a color chart and go, okay, so that's blue, right? Just got to kind of match that up. Just like you have to match up 4, 2 plus 2, 1. Oh yeah, they're all the same thing. There's different ways to get to Rome, right? All roads lead to Rome kind of thing. Institutions don't mind spirituality until it stops needing them. There will come a time, and there is coming a time right now, when institutional enrollments will drop because people can speak to God directly. They can speak to Jesus directly. They can interact with the angels directly. They can interact with their spirit guides directly. They can walk the path of spiritual freedom in white light, in love and light. They can walk it by themselves without having to label themselves, without having to join a building that says I'm this religion or that religion. So here's what I intend to do. My channel is for reducing fear, fear of the unknown, fear of vocabulary you don't understand, fear of someone passing judgment on you, fear of not belonging or being different, because I'm working with an elite, special group of people here who kind of don't fit in because they saw the light in the cracks. They saw the light between. I remember sitting in church, school, coloring and going, what they're saying doesn't make sense. And as a child, I knew that. What they're saying doesn't make sense. And you could already take exception with that. You could sit there in church and go, how on earth is that possible? And they just go, believe, we don't have to explain it to you. Ask a near-death experiencer, they'll explain it to you. I saw a great video of an inmate who was in a satanic cult who crossed over. And he learned what he was really doing. And he was absolutely on his knees crying in front of Jesus saying, I didn't know you were real. I forgot about this. I'm so sorry. I feel so horrible. Please send me back so I can do better. And he did. He came back. He started preaching. He went to a church to start preaching. And believe me, those church people said, that guy is more religious than we ever were because he's seen it. He's walked it. He spoke to Jesus himself. That guy is for real, and he'll just have you in tears watching him. It is a near-death experiencer video, but I don't think I've seen any that aren't good, so go Google those for sure. Spirituality without gatekeeping tends to reduce your fear. It will soften your judgment. Hopefully you're going to become less judgmental of people. When you understand that people chose their life paths, they're alcoholic for a reason, they're drug addicts for a reason, they're experiencing mental illness for a reason, they have a disability for a reason, they lost their foot for a reason. All those things that you think are so harsh or so terrible, and how could a loving God do that to you? You're going to soften your judgment when you realize that person wrote it into their own life path, and they're living what they thought would fast track them to understanding emotion, spirituality, filling them with light. There's nothing like having a disability or a problem to create more compassion, more humility. And humility, okay, with a capital H, humility, as in Jesus bowing down and washing people's feet, sweeping streets, picking trash up, watering a plant, stopping to pet a kitten. Does it help you increase compassion? It does. When I was working with people with mental illness who were drug addicts, I had one of them just in tears standing there at his house going, what do I do? And I said, well, let's start with the nose in front of your face. Look at your front yard right here. You have glass, you have cigarette butts, you have paper. Pick up your yard. Pick up your community. Improve the things that you see in front of you. Improve the life of the person standing next to you. Go in and clean your house. Improve your outlook. Improve what you're eating. Strive to be better. I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking for an increase in awareness. That's what I'm asking for. Decentralized authority. Spirituality without gatekeeping tends to decentralize authority. I'm my best authority. I know what my life path is. It's very interesting how numerology, knowing my ephemeris, knowing where my planets were in, reading all that, helped me to become more science-minded and more spiritual, and understand that there is a grand plan, so grand of a plan. And if you look at quantum physics too, and the idea that we're looking at multiple dimensions, so grand of a plan you can't even begin to imagine. If that doesn't make you an extremely religious person, nothing will. Can you tolerate paradox? The idea that you can never step into the same river twice. The idea that I had a choice this morning to make this video or not make this video, and each of those choices is a reality that continues on. So you're looking at a video, but if you stop this video and start it, you'll see that it's actually composed of thousands of tiny pictures, individual snapshots, and little squeaky sounds that put all together looks like moving motion picture and voice, talking, speaking, syllables, consonants, vowels. When you play it fast, that's what it looks like. When you slow it down and you start to see the frames and the cracks between the frames, and you see that those are individual, appears to run parallel, appears to have a motion, appears to go forward in a certain direction. Well, the Hindus will say everything's illusion, right? And now you understand that it is. But it's illusion with a purpose, because it's a training ground. It's a human playground, and we are not the highest beings out there. We are children of God, co-creators with God. We are God-like children, learning to embrace power and use it appropriately. Okay, so religion as an institution often tightens borders when threatened. Spirituality won't. Spirituality is not religion. Spirituality embraces all the religions. Well, I embrace light. I'm a light worker, so if you are preaching love and compassion, then I'm okay with it. And if you have cultural differences, I'm okay with that. And I'm going to just as well quote Jewish statements, Islamic statements, Christian statements. I'm going to quote all of them if I think that there's wisdom there. Yeah. So I'm not going to tighten the border when I'm threatened. I'm going to stand back and say, why? Why is that? And the perception's either something I'm learning, or it's a person whose perception is actually defensiveness. So people who are super religious may react defensively to ambiguity. Why? Ambiguity is the point where you learn. Okay? Here's a statement that often creates a lot of ambiguity. Lucifer is an angel. Lucifer gives you choices. Because of Lucifer, you have free will. If you just stayed on a puffy light cloud and had nothing to compare yourself to, how would you know if you're good or bad? How would you know if it's right or wrong? How would you know if you're making forward progress? Unless you've seen the opposite. Have you seen a happy family? Can you compare that to an unhappy family? Have you seen a healthy body? Can you compare that to an unhappy person? Have you seen joy? Do you live in joy? How do you know you're in joy unless you've seen people who are miserable? Why do they stay miserable? Why is that their life path? Why don't they choose joy instead? You know, if we didn't have Lucifer and his army giving us these choices about here's alcohol, here's smoking, here's obesity, here's bad health, here's, other things that you could toy with and then go, I see why people would do that. It's not for me. Or I find this abhorrent. I would not do that to myself. But of course you have the comparison, right? Because in a photograph, it has light and it has shadows. And the shadows are what define the picture. The gray areas define the picture. You don't have borders. I can't see the difference between the mat and the table, or the computer and the table, or the computer in the air if it's all white, if it's all the same color. So there has to be gradients. Religion as an institution prioritizes coherence over compassion. Isn't that sad? You don't believe as I believe, so I'm going to kill you. How many religions have done that? How many wars have been fought in the name of religion? If you don't find that to be a problem, okay? Prioritizing coherence over compassion. Monty Python had quotes about the dark period in human history. Talked about different wars they had in England and the fighting they had and how they would chop people's hands off or imprison them because they were prioritizing coherence. You had to believe as they believe. You step out of line, you're considered a witch and they drowned you. So you could have had healers and light workers, but if everybody gets labeled witch and you can't tell the difference, to me, the word witch has a negative connotation. It's somebody who's dabbling in the dark with Lucifer and doing things that are not based on compassion, and they're prioritizing coherence to their belief system. And so prioritizing coherence, blind leadership, blindly following people without even questioning what you're following. You can't just say, I'm going to pray 5 times a day, I'm going to fast once a year, and I'm automatically going to get 7 virgins crossover. Explain to me how that's going to pan out, really. And I can tell you that the Muslim who crossed over did not get the 7 virgins. He got sent back and said, okay, here's reality. You were off a little, try that again. When I say my version feels higher and more peaceful, it's not superiority that I'm speaking from. I like to keep saying it's humble. I'm describing a nervous system difference. People can feel what I'm saying. Some people can relax into it, and some people panic. If you panic because I teach something that you're not familiar with, ask yourself why you're panicking. What part of your belief system is feeling threatened right now? Maybe you need to go back and sort out why you're feeling threatened. If you're feeling threatened because you don't believe in ETs, they don't have to believe in you either, right? If you don't believe in birthdays, that doesn't mean people don't have birthdays. If you don't believe in keeping animals in your house, it doesn't mean other people don't keep animals in their house, because they do. If you don't believe in wearing shoes in the house, okay, good for you. But some people wear shoes in their house. So it just becomes a difference of perspective. I am naming my perspective as my perspective. I am naming what light workers study and where we come together, even though we're vastly different in different countries, different parts of the world, definitely different backgrounds and different religions, and that's okay. I'm not trying to gatekeep people's religions. All the higher aspects of religion, if it's teaching you love and compassion and giving and community service, great, keep doing that. If it's giving you a sense of belonging because you're with a group of like-minded people who feel spiritual together when you're all studying together, that's great. But the minute it hits on hate, it hits on closing you down and says you have to do it only this way, then question what you're being taught. Question, I'm not demanding agreement, and you shouldn't either. There should be no religion that demands that you agree with them, because that is institutionalization, and that is the definition of a prison. I'm not positioning myself as a savior, I'm positioning myself as a person with tools and abilities. I actually position myself as an artist. If I had to label myself anything, I do healing arts, and everything that I do is to heal the people of the world, to heal the world itself, and to help light-filled, fifth-dimensional Earth with its ascension. Let resonance do the sorting. If what I'm saying resonates with you, then great, because we're in this together. We're traveling forward. I am getting into topics right now that are intermediate advanced, and so as we get into the 50s, because the videos are way up there, you're advancing with me. Please do go back and look at the earliest videos and catch up from there. If you feel that this is very advanced and difficult for you to talk about, it's not necessary to put nasty comments or thumbs down or I disagree. Why do that? Just move along if you disagree. My work is spiritual rather than ideological. I'm not recruiting, I'm offering, and that distinction matters. My other notes about reality checks, I'm going to continue to blow up frameworks. If it's institutionalized, then I'm going to question why you're being institutionalized and why you need that, why you need to blindly follow something without questioning it. If it's just your family that always did it, it's okay to disagree with what they always did, especially if you can blow holes in that. They're told, let grandpa hug you even if it feels funny. Let your aunt kiss you even if she has bad breath. Stop naming your discomfort. Be uncomfortable. Stay silent. Be phony. don't speak your truth. Why are children conditioned to act like that? Being told that's not nice when you're speaking your truth? What you're really doing is emotionally numbing people. You're training people to be uncomfortable with the truth and comfortable with lying. So then you get people who are writing fake resumes, pretending to have experience, lying on job applications. Why? If I refuse fear-based language and I don't play defensive and I speak calmly and I don't assign or accept authority roles, if I speak for myself, if myself as a light worker is honest, meek, transparent, that is the kind of thing that Jesus wants people to do. Ask yourself if this is what Jesus wants people to do. Because speaking the truth should not be something that hides in a closet, and you should not be embarrassed to be speaking the truth. So all I can say is, for the people who really have to be gatekeepers, they're afraid of their own autonomy, they're afraid to challenge anyone, they have sanctified certainty that certain things written on page 14 are the truth, even though you've never bothered to go look out the window and see clouds for yourself. You don't need to be a spiritual hall monitor. You don't need to do that. You don't need to stick to doctrinal Velcro. You don't need to have epistemological panic. Don't you love that word? You don't need to have sanctified certainty, because your way to gauge if something is certain or not is right here, that heart chakra. And also the third chakra, your gut chakra, right? That gut instinct. The best police, detectives, investigators always say, go with your gut. You can be talking to somebody, but your gut's telling you that what they're saying is not true. I hope that you can feel that what I'm telling you is true. And I am going to stick to my truth. I'm authentic. I have very high efficacy. I have very ethical, high ethical standards. I have high moral standards, but I refuse to live a life that's a lie. I'm going to live in the best version of myself that I can and bring to you the best, most accurate versions of my research. And again, I always have to say everything's my opinion. It's my research. It's my presentation. Other people will bring in information similar to mine, and that's their presentation. Hopefully, we can use all the colors of the palette to paint a beautiful picture together, my soul tribe, because as you understand from the Soul Bridge video, why are we called Soul Bridge? The bridge is a narrow thing. You're looking at all the crowds below and they're all waving up at you, but you have the better view. And that view is a straight and narrow one, right? It goes forward, it goes backwards. When you're standing on that soul bridge, it's going one direction, it's going that way. And so I'm either going that way or I'm scared and I back out. Right? But here right now, while you're on that bridge, and all those people below are up there, they're looking up, they're looking at you. They're going, that person's trailblazing, that person is setting an example, that person's a role model, let's see what they do. And if those people are unsure, but you're setting a really good example, let's raise the bar. Let's be transparent and honest. Let's communicate the truth, okay? Because my truth right now is what the angels do, what Jesus does, okay? I think those are my truths right now. And so if that's the direction I'm headed and those are the beings that I work with, I'm happy with that. And if you're not, well then, God bless you. All right. So this is Soul Bridge Holistics, and I'm going to end for now, and we'll see you in the next video.